consciences. However, if we wish to view with great power as the theme, there are even more problems than just its prominence for the first half of the character's existence. Firstly, the notion of power, as we look at it today, presumes a significant level of privilege. And it's quite difficult to reconcile this as the theme for a character who's really supposed to be the focal character and the everyman of a comics line that's supposed to look more like the world outside your window. Peter Parker is supposed to be relatable. He starts out as an average kid from Queens. Okay, sure, he's a gifted nerd, but folks, we're sitting in a room full of gifted nerds. Own it. And we won, by the way. Secondly, with great power is a lesson learned at the beginning of his career and internalized. If we have to keep on going back to the same lesson over and over again, or make him have to relearn it time and time again, it completely contradicts the well-established notion that Peter Parker is a highly intelligent character. Smart people shouldn't have to learn the same lesson over and over again. So for all of these reasons, I have to reject the idea that with great power is actually the theme of Spider-Man. If you look at the entirety of Spider-Man's publication history, a narrative and thematic through line emerges, which is less about with great power and more about a protagonist that keeps on having bad things happen to him, that is able to persevere through adversity and inevitably heroically triumph over it. That Spider-Man keeps on metaphorically getting knocked down, perhaps even more so than any other character in comics, but keeps on picking himself back up again, particularly when others need saving. Now, the number of bad things that have happened to Spider-Man, there's a heck of a lot. I'm going to give you a brief list here. First of all, before the comic even begins, his parents are killed when he's a baby. Obviously, Uncle Ben gets killed as part of his origin. His secret identity drives a wedge between him and his first love, Betty Brant, causing him to lose her. Okay, then the radiation in a blood transfusion that he gave to save Aunt May's life ends up poisoning her, leaving her on her deathbed. The experimental isotope that Peter needs to save Aunt May's life is stolen by Doc Ock, leading Spider-Man to a collapse that becomes an underwater death trap where not only is his life on the line, but also Aunt May's. And then we have his arch nemesis, Green Goblin, discovers his secret identity and tries to kill him right outside of his house. His girlfriend's father, Captain Stacy, who's become Peter's friend and almost a stand-in father figure, is killed, and the world, including Gwen, thinks that Spider-Man is responsible. Peter's roommate and best friend, Harry Osborn, gets hooked on drugs and later follows in his footsteps, becoming the second Green Goblin. His girlfriend, Gwen Stacy, is killed after being thrown off a bridge by the original Green Goblin. Peter will never know whether or not it was his intervention in trying to save her that ultimately caused her death. He discovers that his nifty alien costume is actually a highly evolved alien symbiote that wants to permanently bond to him. It later devolves into the homicidal monster known as Venom. And then we have, I'm sorry. Craven the Hunter hunts down drugs and buries Peter alive in a grave for 2 weeks. Afterwards, Craven commits suicide, having successfully completed his final hunt. And then we have the Clone Saga. And the Clone Saga. And 2.5 years later, the Clone Saga. Peter finds out that years ago, Gwen Stacy had an affair with Norman Osborn, producing twins. Just about everybody hated that one. Tony Stark convinces Peter Parker to go public with his secret identity. This leads the Kingpin to make an assassination attempt on Peter, which mortally wounds Aunt May. Peter and Mary Jane sacrifice their love and marriage to the demon Mephisto to save Aunt May's life. Peter and Doc Ock are permanently body swapped just before Doc Ock's body dies, leading to the Doc Ock Spider-Man, the superior Spider-Man. Peter blows up his multi-billion-dollar company, Parker Industries, deactivating its most popular webware product to prevent Doc Ock from taking control of the company. Peter is humiliated when it is discovered that the PhD that Doc Ock earned for him while Doc Ock occupied his body was actually plagiarized from Octavius's earlier work. I knew that would get some groans from the audience. And here we have the Spider-Man death list. Now, I am not going to read these all off to you, but if you're a friend of Peter Parker, I would not start reading any long novels if I were you. And my personal favorite, that time that Peter Parker was homeless, slept in an alley, and had his costume stolen while he was asleep. You can't get much lower than that, folks. But these are just kind of the big things. Peter Parker is more often portrayed as someone who shows resilience and struggles, often through no fault of his own, in the day-to-day aspects of his life. He can never get ahead. While Peter Parker is always catching a bad break, he doesn't break bad. Unlike Walter White, he doesn't use his knowledge of science and chemistry to start an illegal drug empire. But this bad luck that he has is colloquially referred to in story as the Parker luck, and Peter Parker is the original hard luck kid. Let's see. A large part of this is due to how his co-creator and original scripter Stan Lee loved to torture his most relatable and beloved character for dramatic purposes. According to Stan Lee, quote, "I liked the idea of his aunt is surviving and making her always ill, because to keep a story interesting, one of the things that you can do with a character is put him in a situation where he needs to make a life choice. For example, if he goes north, he can fight a villain that's about to blow up the world. But if he heads south, he can reach a drugstore that has the life-saving medicine that his aunt needs within the hour. Now, he can't do both. Is he going to let the world get blown up, or is he going to let his aunt die? What does he do?" When you can get situations like that, you know you're going to hold the reader's interest. The flip side, end quote, by the way, the flip side of this is that Peter manages to keep on going no matter what. Regardless of how many times Aunt May is sick and in the hospital, or how many times he's flat broke and is struggling to help Aunt May pay the bills, or how many times J. Jonah Jameson has convinced New York City that he's a criminal and a menace, he keeps on going. To quote longtime writer of various incarnations of Spider-Man, Brian Michael Bendis, when he was asked about the motivations for the aftermath of the 2008 Secret Invasion event, which concluded with Norman Osborn being placed in charge of S.H.I.E.L.D. and most of our heroes under threat, quote, "It was more about the fact that a lot of our heroes were going to end up having a kind of Peter Parker year. Peter Parker is a very special guy that can handle that kind of thing. Let's say Luke Cage might not be. You know, the even when you win, you lose kind of thing. Some people might not handle that at all, and that's very interesting," end quote. It's easy for readers to relate to someone who's had a string of bad luck. Everyone has had a case of the Parker luck at one time or another, and even if we haven't had a Parker year, we've at least had a Parker week or a Parker day. While we relate to and empathize with his struggles as readers, we also get to celebrate and be inspired by him surmounting them. Peter Parker really is a special kind of guy. His ability to continually overcome the adversity has made him endearing to and an inspiration for his readers for the last 60 years. While with great power there must also come great responsibility is an important lesson that he learned and a profound piece of wisdom. It's not the main theme. The real theme of Spider-Man is expressed through Peter's ability to keep on picking himself back up no matter what obstacles he may face. Thank you.
Thank you so much. All right, we're going to hold questions to the end. Is Marley Crush ready to present? Come on up. Thank you so much.
You can go. Do you have a PowerPoint? Sorry. Okay.